Stav here. Done a few more things on the Corolla, but I think it's finally time to do some performance modifications and basically time it every step to see how much faster we can make it. Right then, here's the engine as it now stands. I've changed a few things. Mostly it's got an oil catch tank rather than being recirculated back to the inlet. How it used to be was runs the pipework as you see there, but going forward to the intake there, which isn't a bad design, and it's how it is on standard cars for emissions reasons, but it makes your inlet setup quite oily because it sucks in the oil vapours straight to inlet, which is why people get oily boost pipes and crap like that. To be honest, it serves no performance reason at all. It's exactly the opposite really, because it's not really good to have oil getting in there. This engine uses almost no oil. It's very good compared to most turbo cars, but even this was enough to make the inlet pipes oily, so I'm not a fan of that, so I had to go. The reason it's there on standard cars is purely for emissions reasons. It's the law on standard cars to be like that these days, but it didn't used to be. Back in the day, even factory production cars, you look at old Jags and stuff, they had either an oil catch tank or the oil went straight to the ground onto the tarmac via a pipe. A lot of quite new Americans Cummins trucks and stuff literally has a pipe straight to the ground. Not brand new ones, but fairly modern, so it's purely there because the government says so, not because you need it or it's a good thing. What I did was bought a fairly cheap catch tank, which was got 19mm ports, because a lot of these catch tanks have got tiny little ports, and if the breather system can't breathe, it's not doing its job. So I found one with big ports, but it only had two, and I wanted two from the engine. So I did a trick which I got from cars I've imported from Japan, which was exactly the same, where the breather port, I just simply drilled a load of holes in the top of the catch can, and it works perfectly, to be fair. It's not pretty, but this isn't a show car. The other thing I did, again it's a bit homebrew, but it works, is the mounting bracket. That one there is actually the compressor housing clamp, well, one of three, from a Borg Warner, I think it's a K24 turbo, which I just happen to have some spares, and it's a really strong, good clamp and just the right size compared to some of these crappy little tin can things that a lot of these catch cans come with. The other main thing I've done before any more tuning was I've messed with the boost control, because when I bought it, it was much more boost than it was meant to be mapped for. The mapper, well, the owner and builder of the car, Mike from Tuning Developments, the person that originally built the car to run about 14 to 15 psi, and the AFR should stay in the 11s at most, never into the 12s. When I got the car, on the way home, I timed it with the Racelogic timing gear, and I also didn't know what boost it was meant to be running, and on the way home it was set from the guy I bought it off running about 17.5 psi. It was fast, means 60 to 100 miles an hour, 5.8 seconds, but once I spoke to Mike at Tuning Developments and also fitted an AFR gauge, oh, aeroplane coming, bear with me, bloody noisy thing. Anyway, yeah, once I fit the AFR gauge and spoke to Mike at Tuning Developments, I realised it was running sort of low to mid 12 AFRs up until about 5,000 RPM when it richened up, and also a couple of PSI more than it was mapped for, and he didn't recommend that, and I don't like turbo car AFRs to be in the 12s because I prefer reliability over anything else, so I wanted to turn it down a bit. All I wanted to do really was turn it down to hold 14-15 psi held, so from the start with no big spike all the way to the limiter, which I think would have stayed in the 11s. But as I'll show you in some footage that I've recorded previously, I spent hours and hours messing with the electronic boost controller, changing the gain, changing the duty, changing the sensitivity, and all it would do was drop boost at high RPM. It just was going down from, say, even if I was at 17, it was dropping down to 14. If I was running sort of start at 14, it dropped down to 12 by high RPM, and it just wasn't quite as fast like that, and it was pointless. And I spent hours sorting it, and it just wasn't happening. And this is the case with a lot of electronic boost controllers. Unless your car's easy to get right and easy to set up with anything, electronic boost controllers aren't the magic the adverts try and say. They're unless they're fully mappable for duty cycle throughout the whole RPM range, or one is controlled by the aftermarket ECU, which again you can adjust duty cycle with RPM, with throttle position, with everything really. So yeah, these little standalone ones, I think they're a bit of a gimmick, but that's another story.
Yesterday.
So nothing's quite how I'd like it. How I'd honestly like it is just to hold a steady 15 or whatever keeps the AFRs in the 11s all the way. But it means monkeying about with this boost controller. In all honesty, I'm not a huge fan of electronic boost controllers unless they're part of the ECU setup. If the ECU controls it and is set up with somebody properly, it's quite good. But I kind of think these ones which are standalone are a bit of a gimmick, and they don't seem to work that brilliant for me. But maybe this one might change my mind.
2 hours later.
It's still not flat. This is why I don't like bloody electronic boost controllers, because this is like a couple hours later from the first part of this video, and I've been messing about with settings, this, that, the other, and yeah, it's better, but no, it's not flat like the adverts try and claim. I've never think I've had any standalone electronic boost controller work properly and go flat like that. I have better luck with mechanical ones, but yeah, I'm going to keep trying. Unfortunately, I've just been to a BP and all they've got is 97 octane crap, so I got to drive normally now for a bit until I find some proper fuel. But it's not quite right, and it's got this gain right down, which means it doesn't feel as snappy, it doesn't boost quite as fast as it could. But if I have the gain any higher, it spikes. So yeah, you know, a lot of fanning about and changing and messing with settings to get not very far. But yeah, that's the latest on the saga, and we'll carry on.
2,000 years later.
Update number, I don't know, 2 million. I've pretty much lost the will to live trying to do this crap. Still no improvement.
1 eternity later.
Right, update number whatever, millions. I reckon this is about the best I can get it, and I'm still not massively happy with it, but it'll do. The myth of rock solid boost control with electronic boost controllers is bullshit, to be fair. Gain, I got it up to 60 without it spiking too much. How the hell I did that, I don't know, but it's alright at 60. Anyway, I tried and tried and tried for hours to make it as good as possible, and it was still crap. So I thought I'd get one of these manual ball and spring controllers just to test if that's any better, because it couldn't be much worse. And lo and behold, it is a fair bit better. And I timed it and checked it last night, and it holds boost fairly brilliantly now. Drops maybe 1 psi by the top end, so it holds about 14, and AFRs in the 11s, so all good, and I'm happy. The trouble is, it's not 17 as it was. It's not as powerful as it was, but the AFRs are safe, and that's the most important thing, because who cares if it's powerful if it's going to blow up in 5 minutes. So what I need to do now is time the car at this, what I would call a safe base level. Safe AFR, safe boost pressure, so we know a base of how fast it is, and then I can start actual proper modifications to hopefully keep the car as reliable as it is, but make it faster and faster. And we will time it after every modification and see the real world improvement, because it's all well and good being one of these people who say, oh yeah, I gained 30 brake, or I gained this, or I gained that, and they've never tested it. It's all bullshit. So I'm going to show you the real world, what's going to make it faster or what's not going to make it faster. I don't know until we find out. I've got a fair idea, but we'll soon find out, won't we? So this is sort of base testing at the maximum safe boost for what the current setup is, and then we'll go from there. In the original slightly unsafe setup, it was doing 5.8 seconds 60 to 100. I would say now it's probably gonna be in the low 6s, but we'll soon find out. I do 60 to 100 Tellymen because it's easiest to compare it to other cars, because nearly every magazine on the planet tests 0 to 60 and 0 to 100 for production cars. So you just subtract one from the other, and there's your 60 to 100 time. So you can roughly see how fast your car is compared to production cars you'll see everywhere, just by those times. So that's the one I like. So yeah, that's the basic overview. So now I think it's time to go try and time the car. Right then, that's the performance testing done, and as you've seen and pretty much as I predicted, it's a bit slower than it was, and it's doing between 6.1 and 6.5 seconds to 60 to 100 miles an hour, which is fast. I mean, I think E46 M3 is 6.8, so it's quick, but it's not as fast as it was, of course, because it was running slightly higher boost. And to be honest, the car's got the potential with a bit of tuning to be able to beat ridiculously fast cars, not just BMW M cars and so on. And I would like to see the 60 to 100 mile an hour go to at least the low 5s, which I reckon is possible without spending too much money and making it a bit pointless. And I want to obviously keep it reliable because it's still just a road car to have fun in. So yeah, now we've got some baseline figures. Let's see what we can go. I mean, by the looks of it, the boost level still isn't completely stable. Better than it was with the electronic boost controller, but still not perfect. So I'm wondering if the actuator is a bit weak. The actuator is an aftermarket one, but only 11 psi spring in it, so quite weak. And with a fairly small turbo, the high back pressure pre-turbine can push the wastegate open, which would cause the boost to drop like that. So it's possible I could get a different actuator or a different spring with like a 1 bar spring, 14.5 psi, and that might help it hold. But every change I make, I performance time it and everything, so you've got a fair idea of what does what and what's bullshit and what's not. If I can teach you lot something at the same time, then happy days. Right then, that's enough for me. See you later.